technique of collage. Now, collage is a technique which uses found images from newspapers and magazines, or maybe the internet, to be combined together and create a new image that is going to tell another story. This technique rose to prominence in the 1960s, with artists such as Richard Hamilton championing the technique. We, however, are going to look at the artwork of David Mach, who is a contemporary artist today in the UK, really at the top of his game. His artworks, where he uses collage, are giant. He tends to create places which are familiar, but then adds things to create something unfamiliar and oftentimes a little bit disturbing. Here you can see the buildings in Canary Wharf. This is a photograph that he has then painstakingly collaged other elements on top of. So every little part of that is collaged into place. It isn't photoshopped, it isn't digital, it's done by hand. This particular image really gives a slight sense of disturbing beauty, I guess, to that area, which wouldn't have tropical seas underneath it with people swimming. It really is quite an arresting image. He, in this image, also goes for a London landmark, Houses of Parliament, but this time juxtaposes a kind of tropical beach scene with people doing various things, and you have to look quite carefully at what's going on in the image and the different kind of characters that are being pushed together. As you look closer, the more crazy the image appears and what's going on in it. Plague of Locusts he produced in 2011 in response to the biblical story about what happened in Egypt. This image, as you look closer, is of the Statue of Liberty in New York, and you can see not only locusts but flying balloons, drones, all sorts of things, each one again cut out to the right scale, placed really carefully in this huge artwork. It really does feel like an infestation. Resurrection was a comment on the biblical story of Jesus rising from the dead. In this image, though, it's very much placed in the present day, where you have the blood-pierced feet of Jesus, but standing on pollution and all the terrible things that human beings have done to the planet. So, we are going to change a place. For this artwork, you are going to need an image of a place to change, A4 printed out from the internet. You will need scissors, Pritt stick, colour inkjet prints, and maybe images from magazines and newspapers. Here we are with a very traditional place to change, Buckingham Palace. This is a lovely bright image, but we want to now possibly change it to be a little bit more disturbing, dystopian, maybe even apocalyptic. Or you could choose a place like Trafalgar Square. I like this starting point because there's lots of blank space in the sky and on the ground to add your various elements. You choose. The next thing is to go and find your images, whether they be from newspapers or magazines or printing out from the internet. You do really need to consider the size of the image in comparison to the background you've chosen. So choose 10 to 12 elements to change your image up. Here I've got a crashing plane, a huge giant locust, or maybe an underwater scene. Again, other images to really juxtapose together. Play with scale, consider the positioning within the background. So I'm going to definitely choose this crashing wave. I want to make Buckingham Palace appear as if a tsunami has overtaken it. So I've printed out my elements, I've got my scissors, and I've started to cut into the wave so that I can slot in Buckingham Palace where I've cut off the sky. I can slot these images together to create the desired effect that I had in my imagination as I chose the images. And here we are, in an instant, just two images combined together create a really disturbing now effect. And then added to that, I've put in my giant locust, my crashing plane, skydiver, splodgy ice cream, and the mole appearing in the corner of the page. And I could keep on adding elements until I was satisfied with it. What you might want to do though is kind of muddle the elements around also, so that you can test whether you've got the best arrangement. Here I've just decided to put the crashing plane in the foreground and the locust on top of Buckingham Palace. So play around with this now, see what you can come up with, and hopefully the image you produce can be framed as an outcome, or maybe this be the starting point for an imaginative drawing or painting.